Bosch Security and Safety Systems is a true multi-domain solutions provider. We offer solutions for video surveillance, access control, fire alarm systems, intrusion alarm systems, communication and conferencing systems, as well as fully integrated solutions. Find out more about what you can do with Bosch. Join one of our series of webinars via YouTube so you can watch them wherever you are. Simply scan the QR code below to register for the webinars. See you soon.
Hello, my name is Ozan Reşat and I'm Product Manager for Public Address and Conference Systems in Nordics. So I will today have the pleasure to talk about Praesensa, our new public address system. In today's agenda, I will try to talk about market and positioning to show you how we position Praesensa. Then we will go into the product details and then I will show you the product family. The third point will be to see the unique value proposition that Praesensa offers. And then we will try to answer the question, what makes Praesensa different compared to other one-to-one or direct topology systems in the market today. And finally, we will go through the key points, key takeaways. So let's get it started with the market trends and positioning. Praesensa combines the benefits of 90 years of experience of Bosch public address. After this 90 years, the scalability, flexibility, and the great user experience came together, and then we introduced Praesensa, which is our new fully IP, fully featured public address and voice alarm system. Before we go into the Praesensa and the product family, let's take a look to the market trends. I think it's very obvious that IP is an ongoing trend and gives a big flexibility to voice alarm systems. Secondly, the decentralization comes, especially in the countries where the labor costs are really high, like in Nordic countries, or basically in whole Europe, we can say, less cabling, less effort, less installation time is getting more and more important. And decentralization is very needed for that purpose. Thirdly, the user experience comes. Well, in today's world, when we are using all our mobile phones, even the car multimedia and everything, we really get used to use great user interfaces. So even in a public address and voice alarm system, in a professional system today, the users are asking for a better experience, that's for sure. So one of the trends are user experience. Living green, I think it's one of the mega trends that we as end users all follow this, but also as manufacturer, Bosch really cares about the environment and living green. So when you think from the PAVA perspective, this means using less hardware, generating less heat, having less cost of ownership, and all these kind of things to be more green, to have more, let's say, effective product family. And the fifth point is the efficiency. So to do that, we have to use our resources more efficiently, meaning that, for example, an amplifier inside the system has to be really efficient. Then we will make sure that we are using less hardware, we are using less batteries to feed that hardware, and so on. So, by keeping these trends in mind, let's take a general look to the market. If we assume that market goes from small to large size applications as we go from bottom to top in this slide, and the left hand side represents the music side, where the right hand side shows the emergency calls, voice alarm, and integration with fire alarm systems. In this boundaries, basically, we can define 4 different streams in the market. So the first one will be the compact and easy market. In this part, actually, in this part of the market, the competition strongly depends or driven by the price, requires limited features, a good example to these kind of projects can be small offices, retail outlets, basically the smallest applications which needs a voice alarm system. This is that market. Secondly, well, actually the biggest part of the market can be defined as mainstream, where we typically have one building. And of course, depending the aim of the building and the size of the building, you can go from medium to large size applications. But we can give as an example like hotel buildings, offices, small or medium-sized factories, multi-purpose buildings, medium-sized exhibition centers, even. So those kind of projects belongs to mainstream, which is the biggest part of the market. And then on the right-hand side, the scalability and the integration part comes. And in that part of the market, actually, we generally see large projects like airports, metro stations, train stations, or critical infrastructures, oil and gas applications, and those kind of things, which requires really advanced features like automatic volume control, controller redundancy, many zones, many audio channels, so much more complicated systems, let's say. And last but not least, in the left-hand side, it's the music side, where we call it ambience and experience side. And of course, in this part of the market, the music and the audio quality is the key. We're talking about projects like shopping malls, cruise ships. It can even be big restaurants, fashion stores, casinos, where actually projects using music as a kind of entertainment item. Okay? So, by summarizing the market like that, Praesensa will actually target to cover this red signed part. So as you see, it's always the high-end market. So covering the ambience and experience market completely, scalability and integration market completely, because Praesensa is full with features, having a great audio quality, and then in the mainstream, the upper side of the mainstream, which is high-end or large, medium to large, let's say, still applications. By saying that, actually, we gave a clear indication of how we will position Praesensa. But for the ones who knows Bosch portfolio today, to give a better view about the internal positioning, I can show you this table. To answer the different needs in the market today, with the introduction of Praesensa, we have 4 different voice alarm systems in the Bosch portfolio: Plena, Paviro, Presidio, and Praesensa. And internally, they are positioned like this. Plena voice alarm system is still serving for the entry market level. Paviro can be extended up to 4 different systems, and it can go up to more than 900 zones, but still targeting especially the mid-market and mid-sized projects. Presidio today still with more than 21,000 installed systems all over the globe is still the most selling PA system and covering a huge market, having different kind of amplifiers, the basic amplifiers and the power amplifiers, or we can say analog and digital amplifiers, gives the product family the flexibility to be competitive and to fit to high-end projects. So basically, you can do any kind of medium to large size project with Presidio, so still covering a big market. And for sure, Praesensa will cover the market Presidio is covering today. And on top of that, we'll have a second phase where we will have even more advanced settings and some functionalities that we are introducing to the market for the very first time with Praesensa. Let's take a closer look to the product family. Well, as in all VA systems, we start with a system controller, which is obviously the traffic cop of the control of the system. So controls everything, manages the audio routing, knows everything about the system. That's, as we can easily understand from the name, the controller. Secondly, we have amplifiers for sure. In Praesensa, we will have two types of high technology efficient amplifiers. One will be 4-channel, the other will be 8-channel. Both amplifiers will be, or is, let's say, 600 watt. And we will go through the details in the upcoming slides. But we have built-in redundancy and efficient amplifiers. The multifunctional power supply is actually self-explanatory, I think. It's a power supply, but there are reasons why we call it multifunction. Because it's not just a power supply, it's also a switch for the system, it's also a battery charger for the system. So it's not only one simple power supply, but it's more than that, and we will also see the functionalities. The desktop call station. Well, we have basically two types of call stations. One is the desktop one, the other is the wall mount. And in the desktop one, we have the touch screen with an intuitive graphical user interface. In the wall mount, you can also, of course, use that, but you can also use the wall mount call station as an emergency microphone or fireman's panel, according to your scenarios. To understand the products, the items in the product family better, I want to give you some hints about the product naming. So like you see in these examples, PRA stands for Praesensa, obviously. And then we have System Controller Large, so it's PRA-SCL. We have PRA AD608. This means PRA amplifier D class 600 watts and 8-channel, for example. And then 604 is the 4-channel version. Going with the same mindset, PRA MPS means the multifunctional power supply. We have end-of-line boards, the call station desktop, the call station wall-mounted, and then we have the APAS and APAL, which is the Advanced Public Address Server and the license. So this is the mindset behind the naming. If we know that, we will easily recognize when we read the code of the device, we will easily recognize what kind of functionalities or it has. They were the main products of the Praesensa family, but of course we have some more accessories. So if you need to use a power supply module, for example, we have separated device for that. Or if you need a switch to extend your system for even bigger systems, then you can use a compact in-rail mounted 8 gigabit ports switch. These all will also be in the Bosch price list. Then we will have two SFP fiber transceivers, both for multi-mode and single mode. And for sure, we will have the end-of-line board because Praesensa basically supports any kind of loudspeaker supervision method we know in the market today. When we come to the controlling side, of course, the software comes. We call it Advanced Public Address Server and License. So this combination gives us the software. The software, we mean the control interface that end user using. So it's very easy to manage the live paging. If you will see in the presentation, we have a tab for live paging. Then we have text-to-speech functionality. You can play and send recorded messages to particular zones very easily. You can manage the background music and select the sources. You can view the logging from the history tab. And you can schedule messages like, for example, every Monday morning, send a no smoking message to these zones and kind of thing. So the operator, facility manager, or any kind of admin for the user, whoever it is, can easily use the mobile device or any kind of device to reach Praesensa and to control some functions there. This is the principle of Praesensa. In this very simple example, the system controller, like this, connected to the A-channel amplifier, you see here, and the amplifier connected to the MPS. Then from MPS, it goes back to system controller, so it creates a loop there. And as you see, we have also a redundant IP PoE connection from MPS unit to the desktop call station. Also in the power side, as you see, we have redundant DC connections. So basically everything, both the network side and the power side, is all redundant for sure. You can either use mains to feed Praesensa or the multifunctional power supply, or for sure you can use the batteries. Well, Praesensa can be designed either centralized or decentralized. Actually, Praesensa has IP devices in the portfolio, so all main devices, central devices in the product family are IP. Of course, this gives a great flexibility for the decentralized applications. So that's a good drawing to give an example. As you will see on the left-hand side, the system starts with a controller, as all public address systems do, right? And then we have 3 amplifiers with 600 watts power each, mounted to the rack. And after each 3 amplifiers, we have an MPS unit, as you see in the drawing. The reason is 1 MPS 3 unit can feed 3 amplifiers. So in every 3 amplifier, you will need an MPS unit. In the project, if the area is large and the buildings are distributed, like for example a university campus, then of course you have to go to decentralized solution. But unlikely the traditional systems, as you see in the drawing, there is only one system controller in the system A. Then in the system B and system C, you don't see any controllers. If you want to create such system design with the traditional systems we have in the market today, you have to use a controller in each centers, in each amplifier centers. Then let's think about a long tunnel project. Let's say we have 35 different technical and operational rooms in 20 kilometers of tunnel. This means if you want to connect each and every technical room or operation room to each other with long distances, you have to have 35 different controllers in each room. Then you have to connect these controllers to each other in some way, either audio over IP or using any other technology. But the first thing you have to do is to buy 35 controllers and then distribute it to the technical rooms. But here the difference is, instead of using 35 controllers, you use only 1 controller, or if you need a redundant controlling, then you just use 2 controllers. And that's basically all. So even from the beginning, the first moment you start to create a BOQ, the first moment you start to prepare your offer, you just start to earn or save cost from the beginning. And after, by using amplifiers efficiently, by using less batteries, by using less power supply units, overall you save a lot of cost. As a seller or as an end user, of course, you see benefits, obviously. So this is how Praesensa works in a very short summary. So if we go into the value proposition, but basically to understand why Praesensa is important or how it is different than the traditional direct topology systems, one-to-one systems, we have to understand 5 main topics. Of course, there's a lot of different examples when we go into the details, but these 5 more points is the main points that we always have to keep in mind. So the first thing is being IP. And not only being IP connections together with security. the secured, encrypted data and audio. Secondly, effective power utilization. We will also go into the details, but basically using the power efficiently. Higher system availability. Optimize user experience, and a lot of different features offered as standard in the Praesensa that I will show you some examples. So these 5 points basically differentiates Praesensa. Now let's take a closer look what we really mean with this. First one is the secure IP infrastructure. So all components of the system are IP networked for highest flexibility and scalability. Everything can be connected to a network. This gives a great flexibility. But then the question pops up, how secure is this connection? Praesensa is using advanced encryption standard to encrypt the audio flow in the Praesensa. So your audio is encrypted and protected. Additionally, we are using transport layer security to make sure we also encrypt the data flow. So both audio and data are encrypted and are secured in Praesensa. So you don't need to worry about the security of the IP infrastructure. Secondly, effective power utilization. I believe the best way to explain it is to give an example. So let's say we have a hotel project, and in the spa part, we want to use 4 or 5 loudspeakers from 6 watts approximately. Then let's say we need 25 watts of power in the first loudspeaker zone. But the smallest amplifier channel we can choose with the systems available in the market today is 60 watts. There's not less than 60 watts of power that you can get from an amplifier channel today, if we don't count Praesensa for sure. Well, then, if you select 60 watts of power from an amplifier channel, the 35 watts in between will just be an amplifier spill, and that will never be used, that power. You cannot use it to feed some other zones, or you cannot use it as a backup power. It's just amplifier spill. With the same mindset, if you have a zone that you need 300 watt, you can either choose 250 or 500 watt with the amplifier channels available in the market today again. But it's not possible, of course, to use 250 if you need 300. Cannot be smaller, right? So then you will go with the 500 watt, and then 200 watts of power will just be wasted in only one loudspeaker zone. So this is just a small example with 2-zone hotel. And if you extend it, if you are making a bigger project and you have maybe, I don't know, tens of zones, just like this, imagine how much amplifier spill you will have. So how Praesensa solves that problem? If we go from the same example, Praesensa will supply exactly 25 watt to the first zone and exactly 300 watt to the second zone. Because Praesensa is using a very flexible power sharing to manage the amplifier bubble and to reduce the amplifier spill. The only rule is here to remember that the amplifier is 600 watt and you will not exceed 600 watt, and that's basically all. The sharing between the loudspeaker zones will be much more flexible, and the amplifier spill will be close to 0. And of course, by doing that, you will use your amplifier more efficiently. This means you will use less amplifier. Less amplifiers means less batteries, and yeah, well, basically less rack space, less cost of ownership, and yeah, this will of course create a greener, efficient, and competitive system. So if we go a little bit into the details, this is how an amplifier looks like from inside. So there can be reasons about the spill. It can be either step size of the amplifier, as we mentioned, or it can be spare amplifiers. With the traditional systems, if you need a spare amplifier, you have to buy another amplifier, which will be a standby amplifier for the main amplifier, right? But in Praesensa, there is already a built-in amplifier channel, which you can use as a spare amplifier. That makes, of course, Praesensa amplifier even more efficient, because yes, flexible power is one thing, and then you have an integrated standby amplifier channel inside the amplifier. It's built in. So when basically you buy the Praesensa amplifier, the spare amplifier channel is coming together with it. So you don't need to invest for another amplifier. And especially in the critical infrastructure or industrial projects where you need more spare amplifiers, this will be a great cost-saving method for you. Well, we can say, on average, according to our calculations so far, only half of the amplifier power is needed with Praesensa to give you a better view about the comparison. The next point is, of course, the high system availability. We are talking about an EN54 certified system here. EN54 has some certain rules about system availability, which is mandatory. But Praesensa offering even more than that. Let's see what we mean with high system availability. In this drawing, you see an 8-channel amplifier from inside. So the first part you see here is the redundant power supply. So of course, we have more than one power supply input to make it redundant. That's the first point. Secondly, the loudspeaker wiring, the loudspeaker redundancy. You can either use AB cabling or Class A cabling. You can, of course, use end-of-line boards, or later on we will also have branching and so on. So basically all known loudspeaker supervisions. Thirdly, the network part. The network part also should be redundant. Fourth point, the built-in spare amplifier that we just talked about. So this is something new. The lifeline backup for network interface. Of course, our network is redundant. So if you lose one of the connections, the other will for sure continue. But if you lose the network itself, if you completely lose the connection, then this lifeline makes you still to use your amplifiers powering from the MPS unit. So this creates communication even if you lose the network connection. So this is something on top of EN54 that Praesensa offers. And the sixth point is, of course, the controller redundancy. If you need, well, it's not mandatory in EN54, as you may know, but if you need a redundant controller, then of course you will be able to use in Praesensa. This was from the amplifier perspective. Let's take a look from the multifunctional power supply side. And there we will also see some certain things. Of course, the first one is the built-in battery charger. So you don't need to buy a separated device for that. The battery charger is already in the device and creates, of course, a high system availability. Second point shows the internal switch in the device. Supports Omnio interface and redundant RSTP Ethernet connection. And the third point, as we mentioned, is the lifeline. So this part is connected to the amplifier to support or to feed the amplifier even if the other connections are lost. This was the highest system availability part. So basically any kind of redundancy is possible in Praesensa. The next point is the optimized user experience. In PAVA systems, it's very important that the user or operator finds what he or she is looking for easily. It's a critical system. Even it's not a voice alarm situation, even it's not an emergency situation, probably there is an operation ongoing, for example, in an airport. So you have to find anything easily with the one look to the call station. That's the reason why we are using a clear look, intuitive user interface with a touchscreen. And there is also a lot of functionalities that makes life easier. One example to that is the one you see on the screen right now. Let's imagine that we are an operator in the main information desk of an airport. And we will send a call to a gate, which is, let's say, a kilometer away from the place we sit. And we will send a gate change announcement to a gate. Yeah, we can do that, but then we will not hear the announcement with it, right? Because it's 1 kilometer away if we don't have any monitor loudspeakers for that. So the operator basically will never make sure if it was a successful announcement or not. Plus, sometimes operators can talk pretty early, and maybe in the beginning of the call you will lose some words, some part of the announcement. To prevent all these, Praesensa call station gives a clear indication to the operator when he or she has to talk. And it says you talk now, and after the call station gives you a feedback if the call was successful or not. So for operator sitting in the information desk, everything is much more under control with this functionality now. So the intuitive user interface, the user for users, touchscreen makes life much easier. And then you can change the user interface according to your needs. So if that particular call station will not manage, for example, the background music, you can take away the background music part, and you can just let that call station to do only announcement, for example. So according to your needs, you can define or customize the user interface. This was the call station part. The other side, the user will have some experience, is of course the software part. So here we are using, as mentioned, an advanced public address software to give users the control of live calls, background music, all basically loudspeaker zones, text-to-speech functionality, and this is how it looks. As you see, it's very clear and it's very easy to understand. Anybody using known brands mobile devices today can easily understand how to use this software. You can just simply press a button, record your message, then you can listen the message. If you are happy with your announcement, then you can select your zone and send it. Or you can easily see a list of background music sources. You can select the source first, you can select the loudspeaker zone, and you can send it. Easy, simple. The text-to-speech functionality will make life easier. Let's imagine that you had to do some announcement on the go and you didn't think about that before. So there is no recorded messages inside the controller about that particular event or particular topic. So you just want to say something different than the recorded messages. So simply type it to the text-to-speech, and text-to-speech can work in many languages. So then basically you can send that as an announcement if you don't want to talk, if you don't want to do live calls. So with many functions, the new software is very user-friendly. And last but not least, the new features Praesensa is bringing as standard. Omnio. Omnio is a Bosch technology that combines Dante with control functions. If you want to have more information about Omnio, I suggest you to go to Bosch Academy. There are trainings about that, so you can get more details how Omnio works. AES 67 defines a standard audio over IP protocol developed by Audio Engineering Society. So Praesensa is compatible with AES 67 and 70, which is the controlling part. Praesensa is using dynamic audio routing, which means that in different audio channels you can play different calls, which will make your audio channel management much more flexible. Again, for details, you can always contact us. Open interface for third-party integrations. Bosch is always supporting open interface and also in Praesensa. The audio quality and digital signal processing functions. As it's, of course, digital, you are able to manage all the settings. The built-in IP switches, complete IP-based structure of Praesensa, and many more features makes Praesensa much interesting PAVA system. So as a summary, to remember these 5 points. It is IP and it's secure IP infrastructure. Using amplifier powers much efficiently, and you need less amplifiers. Have all kind of redundancies and offering new built-in redundancies, and Praesensa has the highest system availability. Has a great user interface and user experience with a user-centric design, and have a lot of new features and compatible with a lot of new standards in the market. So with this 5 points, Praesensa is much more different than the traditional systems. For now, we are having some changes in our website. So we have created the Praesensa website, which will temporarily be used. So please visit Praesensa website. We will put the links under the video. If you need some documentation, data sheets, certifications, engineer specs, and many more, you will find in this link. Thank you very much.